this is a common error that I want you to be aware of because most golfers are inflicted with it. I know that all of you, including myself, want to have not only accuracy but distance, and we hear that to get distance you have to have a fast club head speed. But if you have certain issues in your swing, no matter how fast you swing and how hard you try and how much you swing out of your shoes, you're not going to get any distance. A lot of times if you try to speed up with these issues, you're going to actually lose distance. So today I want to talk about the wrist position at the top of the swing, and then explain why certain wrist positions are better than others. I'm going to talk about 3 different wrist positions. One is cupping, which opens the club face at the top of the swing. The other one is a flat wristed position at the top, and that keeps the club face square. And then there's a bowed wrist that closes, it shuts the club face at the top of the swing. Cupping is when you take the club to the top of the swing and the fingers fold your wrist towards the golf ball, and there's this bend and it opens up the club face. So now you know what an open club face looks like at the top of the swing. A lot of you don't know that. So when you do that, you don't realize that if you're hitting a 7-iron, you could be turning that 7-iron loft into a 9-iron. So if I go to the top and I cup and I leave that position, at impact the club face is really open. So let me show you from this angle. Take it back, and it's this kind of a fold towards the golf ball, and then the club face, that's an open position at the top. Now the flat wristed position, which I recommend, is when you take it and it's flat here, and then the club face is more square. So I'm going to show you from this angle. It's flat, and then the club face is square. Now the bowed wrist is when the fingers go away from the golf ball and the club face is pointing up more towards the sky, and then I'll show you that position from here. So that's bowed and the club face is shut. So if I bring that into this position, the club face is closed at impact. I prefer the square, flat wristed position, but if you're gonna do one extreme, I'd rather you bow it than cup it. Most pros on tour I see has a flat wrist, and then some of them have a bowed wrist, like Dustin Johnson. Shane Lowry, British Open champion, Irishman, he has a cupped wrist at the top, but he has very quick hands, so he's able to rotate more, release the club more at impact. It just creates a little more compensation than you need, so it makes golf harder than it is for the average golfer. But people like Shane has that ability to square the club face up at impact and then rotate through. So there's few golfers that can get away with it. I'd rather you try to strive for a flatter wrist. Now, because I've mentioned these positions at the top, the last thing I want you to do is do a random swing, the same swing you've been doing, and then look at your hands and try to emulate this position or this position. I see that a lot. Like people will go, I want to swing like Dustin Johnson. So then they end up doing their normal swing and then they do this at the top. These positions are positions that should happen as an effect of what you're doing previously. So if you do the right setup and grip, takeaway and backswing and turn and all that good stuff, then the side effect is either a cupping motion if you're doing a lot of the wrong motions, a more flatter wrist at the top, or bowed at the top. So when you look at Dustin Johnson type of golfer, think of it as a puzzle. I mean, his swing forms into that wrist action. But most golfers, I would recommend striving for a flatter wrist by doing the right fundamentals, and that's why I always talk about doing the right fundamentals, doing the right things to cause the effect of that. When you have a cupped wrist, a lot of you, I notice this is why. One of the reasons why you have a cupped wrist is you practice with a very light grip. You're told to hold lightly, so it's overdone. And so when you hold the club lightly, the weight of the club takes over, and it will most often cause this kind of motion. Another thing is people think that any kind of hinging in a golf swing is good. So they think that when you do this, this is a wrist hinge, and that's not. I'd rather you try not to hinge your wrist, because when you do the right swing and you don't try to hinge your wrist, it will hinge properly. You'll have the right angle in your wrist. But when people try to create a wrist hinge, I notice that they do it incorrectly and do the cupping motion. So I'm not going to be where, you know what, let's stop doing it, let me give you a tip. It doesn't work like that. You have to start with the right grip, setup, do the right takeaway, and do the right turn to create the right motion at the top of the swing. I encourage you to either consult an instructor that does know the fundamentals to do that, and if you don't find an instructor, you can come see me, or I recommend you checking out my membership site, junsgolf.com, the One Swing, and I can teach you how to get to the right position at the top. But at least now you have the knowledge of what to do, what not to do, and then once you know that, then you can strive to learn it. And if you are cupped like this or bowed like that and you want to get square, I encourage that first of all because it makes golf a lot easier. I mean, you could take anybody that's athletic, and I can put them in that position, and no matter how athletic they are, they will not be able to hit the ball when it's cupped too much. So those kind of things that I want you to be aware of. Let's make golf easier and learn it a fundamental way. Have fun, take care, see ya.